You can forgive silence. But mocking a man who gave up everything? That sticks with you. We were hosting dinner at the new house. A big one. Celebrating my engagement. It was meant to be joyful. Laughter, wine, toasts. Bringing two families together. And for the most part it was. Except for what happened in the kitchen. Except for what was said, and what wasn't. The house was full. Long tables stretched across the dining room. Napkins folded into roses. The smell of garlic, grilled meat, rosemary. Everyone said how beautiful the place was. How bright. How big. It's hard to believe this was built by hand, someone said. I heard my mother hum quietly. Because she knew. It was. My father sat at the far end of the table. Quiet, smiling. Not saying much. He wore a brown sweater. Tight at the sleeves. It was his best one. His hair was slicked back. Shaved that morning. He had practiced his lines the night before. Because English still scared him. My fiancé's family was polite. Wealthy. Educated. Effortlessly confident. His father, a retired lawyer. His mother, an interior designer. Siblings who studied abroad, owned startups, spoke with that effortless polish. They were not mean. But they weren't gentle either. They spoke fast. Joked in idioms. Nodded to each other like they shared some higher wavelength. I tried to fill in the gaps. To translate culture. But it didn't always work. Especially when my father spoke. It happened after dinner. Most people were still eating dessert. I was in the kitchen, helping serve coffee. Dad came in to carry a tray. He smiled at my fiancé's younger brother. More coffee? Maybe sugar. His voice was warm. Accent heavy. A bit broken. The brother smiled back. Then, when Dad turned around, he mimicked him. Said in a slow, distorted voice. More coffee? Maybe sugar. Laughter. From two people. Quiet, but not quiet enough. One was my fiancé's cousin. The other was my fiancé. Not a full laugh. But that breath laugh. The kind you pretend doesn't count. My hand froze on the tray. Dad didn't notice. He kept walking. I watched his back. Straight, proud, unaware. And I felt something twist inside me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, hearing the sound again. The mockery. The echo of their tone. And all I could think about was when I was 10. And I told Dad not to walk me to school because his shoes were too loud. He had smiled. And walked behind me, at a distance. I remembered when I was 12. And a teacher asked me where I was from. Before I could answer, she added, because your father sounds different. I laughed it off. At 14, I begged him not to speak at parent-teacher night. I said I'd translate. He nodded. At 15, I watched him fall asleep on the couch. His hands cracked from work. His boots still on. He never complained. Never. Not when we couldn't afford heating. Not when he missed weddings back home. Not when he worked double shifts and came home coughing. All he ever said was, this house is for you. One day, you will bring your family here, and they will not worry like we did. At the dinner table, no one mentioned it. No one acknowledged the laugh. Not the brother. Not the cousin. Not my fiancé. Dad poured coffee for each person. Carefully. Respectfully. When he handed me mine, he smiled. His eyes twitched, just a little. Like maybe. He knew. The guests began leaving. Polite hugs. Beautiful home. We must do this again. My fiancé stayed to help clean. I asked him gently, did you hear what your brother said? He hesitated. Laughed a little. Oh, come on. It was just a joke. A joke at my father's expense. He shrugged. He's fine. He didn't even notice. I nodded. But inside I screamed. Because that's what they always said. He didn't notice. He's used to it. It's not that serious. But it was. It always was. I thought of confronting the brother. Of bringing it up publicly. But I didn't have to. Because the next morning, my father said something. And everything changed. The next morning, the house was quiet. The wine glasses were rinsed. The chairs stacked. The candles burned down to wax puddles. It was the kind of silence that follows a performance. Like the curtain had fallen, but the air hadn't yet exhaled. I found my father in the backyard. He was watering the rose bush near the fence, the one he planted when we first moved in. He wasn't in a rush. He never was. Just moving, slowly, gently. He didn't turn when I stepped outside. Just said softly, "Good dinner. People are happy." I nodded. We stood like that for a minute. Then I said it. "I heard what they said, Dad. In the kitchen. About your accent." He didn't flinch. Didn't smile either. Just turned off the hose. I heard too. His voice was flat. Not angry. Not sad. Just tired. He sat on the old bench beneath the lemon tree. "I have heard worse," he said. "In factories. In banks. In hospitals." He looked at me. "But hearing it from family." He nodded slowly. "That one I will remember." I sat beside him. Tried to speak. Words didn't come. He put his hand on mine. "You don't need to defend me," he said. "You are my daughter, not my lawyer." I started, but he stopped me with a look. "I didn't work 20 years for them to respect me. I worked so you wouldn't need their approval." He gestured toward the home. "You know what I see?" he asked. I shook my head. "I see my lungs in that roof, my spine in those walls, my fingers in every tile." He smiled faintly. "This house has my breath. It was built with my body." Then he said something I didn't expect. Maybe they should know that. The next week, we had another dinner, more casual, just family. My fiancé's relatives came again. Less formal, lighter clothes, but same tone. Halfway through dessert, my dad stood up, held his glass, cleared his throat. "I want to say something," he began. His accent was thick, but his voice was steady. "I want to tell you about this house." He told them everything. How he came here with nothing. No language, no diploma, only hands. How he worked construction by day, cleaned offices at night. How he and Mom shared one winter coat for 2 years. How he saved every coin, never took vacations, lived in a rented room with 6 others to save rent. How this house took 15 years to afford, and 3 more to finish. And now, he said, looking at everyone, "We live here because I wanted my daughter to have something solid." Then he pulled a folded paper from his pocket, placed it on the table. "The deed," he said, "in my name, paid in full. No mortgage." Silence. No one moved, not even my fiancé. Dad looked at the brother who had mocked him. "You laughed at my voice," he said, not cruelly. "But this house, the one where you laughed, it stands because I didn't stop speaking, even when nobody listened." My fiancé tried to speak, said something like, "It was just." But Dad raised a hand. "No need to explain. Just remember, words can build walls, or burn them." He turned to me. "And I didn't build this house so you'd hide where you come from." Then he sat down, and the room stayed quiet for a long time. No one brought it up again. But things changed. The brother stopped making jokes. The cousin apologized in private. My fiancé began calling him Mr. D instead of Sir, a small sign of respect. And me, I stopped correcting his words. I stopped feeling ashamed. I started saying, "My father built this house." Because he did. Brick by brick, hour by hour, word by word, even the broken ones. Last week, I walked with Dad around the neighborhood. Someone stopped to ask how he built such a lovely home. He smiled and said, "In pieces, like my English, but I finish everything I start." I laughed, because that's him. Rough edges, soft center, unshakable hands. They laughed at his accent, but his voice built more than just a house. It built us, like a man who knew the value of time.